over items over which we have purview. We would ask as you speak to identify whether you're speaking for yourself or others. I would caution you that statements of personal or derogatory nature will not be tolerated. We will mute you and your time will be done. So with that, I see, and forgot the part. You also, this is for 3 minutes. Also, since this is not an item that is on our agenda, council will not take action on that on any item that's brought up during this particular part of our session this evening. With that, I see Paula McMinn, hand is up. And Ben, if we can get her unmuted. Paula, I'm still showing you muted.
Hi.
There we go.
Okay, can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah, we're good.
All right, Paula McMahon, 2000 North Aller Street, Ellensburg. As civil servants, we ought to give more than a head nod to what all of humanity is facing, the existential threat of climate disruption and mass extinction. But other pressing concerns present themselves. Among them, climate change has reduced regional snowpack, increased the risk of wildfire, affected wildlife populations, disproportionately impacted people of color, and taken down a state's entire grid, affecting millions of people. Aged pipeline infrastructures extend beyond Texas to natural gas customers in Morton, Illinois, who were told they may have gas bills 5 times higher due to the climate disruption in Texas. It is certainly not the end of climate disruption for Texas. I've lived in those states. As a child, I watched my red tennis shoe float away while sitting on a wooden bench during a tornado in an underground structure like Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz, only I was in Altus, Oklahoma. The fossil fuel industry built an extensive web of natural gas infrastructure in the already severe weather-prone areas, Texas, Oklahoma, Louisiana. When these systems fail, it affects others as far away as Illinois, Missouri, and Mexico City. Further, Ellensburg City's natural gas provider, Williams Northwest, brings natural gas from Texas and Louisiana along the Gulf Coast and the eastern seaboard to New Jersey, all of which will experience increasingly strong weather patterns in the form of hurricanes, tornadoes, and now perhaps freezing winters where there were none. Some of you may recall I explained the vulnerability of pipeline infrastructure to you over a little over a year ago when I introduced research by the Army War College and others that said our aging energy infrastructure, including gas pipelines, would not withstand climate disruption. Today we have proof that they were correct in their research. While Texans navigated power outages, food shortages, boil water advisories, wholesale prices rose 300-fold. Power prices at DFW area hit $8,800 per megawatt hour, up from the average of $26 per megawatt hour. State utilities likely hike bills out of the year, record price spikes, and to fund updates to Texas's grid. But remember, Texas is not the only state that needs upgrades, and your gas customers will likely see a price hike to pay for these upgrades. Emissions from greenhouse gases from our activities here in Kittitas County, the energy use in our home and our vehicles, is part of what creates the climate change that we are experiencing and the gas price hikes that will follow. We caused this and we can do something about it. Please consider forming a committee focused on energy alternatives to natural gas and how the city of Ellensburg can participate in reducing greenhouse gases. I thank you for your time tonight, and I'll see you next Monday.
Great, thank you. Actually, you'll see us 2 weeks.
Correct.
Technically. Thank you. Next up in the queue is Christopher Hobbs. Okay, I think you're good.
Okay, I'm there.
Yep, we're good.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members. First of all, thank you for the flag salute. I appreciate that very much. My name is Christopher Hobbs, 302 North Water. I'm speaking for myself, and tonight I would again like to speak to rules, my favorite topic, as you're aware. Tonight, rule number 7.6 refers to out of order comments, and it applies to any person making personal, impertinent, or slanderous remarks, or who shall become boisterous. And I note that that if that does happen, that people are to be barred from coming before the council after that. And I am recalling on the February 1st meeting, there was some discussion on the DEI commission, and there were some remarks made in there after two people came in expressing concern and being against the DEI. There were some comments made by an individual that implied that anyone who is against that is a bigot, racist, and white supremacist. I find that meeting these impertinent and slanderous nature of there, and I love a good argument. I love robust argument, but I also love civility. And I think at the basis of civility is that we can agree to disagree. And I hope that by the council's inaction on those comments, that did not imply that they agreed with that commenter or that they are acceptable to the council. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you. I see Rob Marlowe. Okay,
Can you
should
hear
we
me?
go? Yeah, yep, you're great.
All right, thank you for your time. I'm formerly of 111 Lone Star Lane, and I used to have the privilege of working for the City of Ellensburg Light Department for about 4.5 years. It was a great stepping stone in my career, leaving great things from the experienced line crew that was there. I still keep in contact with many of the people I worked with and many other friends from the community. It saddens me to see what is currently happening with the negotiations between the city and the light department. This is a very highly skilled group of workers that the city seems to take for granted. In order to retain and attract these skilled workers, the city needs to maintain wages that are competitive with the industry. While I was working there, I was able to learn from the linemen there because they were all former PSE linemen. They all ended up at the city because PSE laid off all of their linemen, excuse me, and went to contractors. These men had many years of experience and were lucky enough to find a job at the city. While they were there, they were able to train many linemen there, including one of your current linemen and a supervisor. The city is unique in that it is a small service territory that is well maintained. With that comes less overtime, meaning that these employees are working for a very good base wage. There are many opportunities to learn much more, to earn much more money by going to a nearby utility, as was expressed by one of the former employees last meeting. For me personally, money was one of the factors as to why I moved. I'm sorry, I'm not a very good public speaker.
Oh, you're doing fine.
The city in Kittitas PUD used to be some of the best utility jobs in the state, being in a great community and having a small, close-knit crew. Since Kittitas unfortunately has gone strictly to contractors, severely increasing costs and outage links onto their customers. When I was working with the city, there were a total of 10 employees in the line side. The supervisor of line crews currently was a lineman, and he had the opportunity to advance his career at the city. Last March, I went to Yakima and watched the Ellensburg girls basketball team represent the city well at the state basketball tournament. I went through the stands and spoke with many friends from the area. I spoke to two parents of players. One of them was a lineman, and the other was a management rep at the negotiating table. The first couple of years after I left, I would return every now and then and make it a point to visit people. I would walk through the city hall and catch up with the same people, noticing hardly any turnover at all. I would stop by the shops and do the same thing. 12 years ago, I sat in on negotiations with one of the current linemen and the same HR director. One thing that is consistent, people go to work for the city and make a career of it. These men are trying to do the same thing. Times are hard. This last year has been hard on everyone. Things will improve and have already started to open up. The students will come back, boosting up the local economy, as well
Okay.
as many great.
Rob, that's your 3 minutes.
Okay. All right. Well,
Okay.
thank you for your time. Just please value those men.
I appreciate your statement. Okay, there we go. Let's go on to, I've got Eric Rains.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we're good.
Hi, good evening. My name is Eric, and I'm a new business development manager for a West Coast distribution company servicing the commercial and residential construction industry. And I want to appreciate the opportunity to speak on behalf of the Ellensburg Six. The two main points of focus for tonight.
Eric, can I get an address then, please?
Yeah, 2105 Creeks Edge Way.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. The two main points of focus for tonight I'd like to cover are the retention of local jobs and the economical growth implications related to this industry. These men love representing and more so serving their community and helping their fellow residents, neighbors, and friends. Understandably, fair wages, benefits, and working conditions should be standard practice in an industry that requires an extreme skill set and dedication to continued education and community service. Being a lineman is not for the faint of heart. It's hard work, long hours, unpredictable weather, dedicated weekends for on-call are just a few of the key components that fall under the added stresses of the job. Linemen, as mentioned last week or in the last meeting, are a top 10 dangerous job in the country and should be compensated as such. That's the truth. In business and life, the best problem solvers get paid. These men are high-risk problem solvers and early responders. Take care of your people as they continue to keep your power on and comfort levels satisfactory. Ellensburg is the true Windy City. I don't think anybody in Chicago has anything on you guys. And you need the best team to handle the harsh weather and expansion of the city. And as a community, we need to be advocates for the trade. 2020 has taught us a lot. And these trades are pivotal, along with the skill sets that are learned along the way. If the city continues to want to grow, and in order to do so, you have to invest in itself and the people. And for the council, I have a great book recommendation for you. It's called Good to Great. I'm not sure if you guys have read it or not, but the main premise of that book is the bus analogy, right? You get the right people on the bus in the right positions, and you take care of them and they feel comfortable, they feel empowered, and then you guys keep moving forward. And that's what I think that you guys need to do. You guys have a great group of people in this community that want to serve you guys. And not only these 6 people, but you guys need to add more to that staff so that they can have full blown access to be able to help the community. So I just want to thank you for the opportunity to speak on behalf of the Ellensburg Six, and hope you guys have a great evening.
Great, thank you. I've got Teresa Plouffe. Nope. Lost your hand and you're still muted, Teresa.
Hello,
Okay, yeah, I think I got you. We got you.
is the volume good?
Yeah, it's good.
Okay, Teresa Plouffe, 140 Woodhouse Loop. Here on this non-agenda item, I'm representing myself and there'd be 7 other people who expressed to me that they were not able to get on to the last meeting because I called Beth Leader and found out that the Zoom meeting was set up in such a way that it was limited to 100 participants. And your minutes for that meeting said that there were 95 public participants, and then I'm guessing with all the other people that you had on there that belonged to the council and people reporting, there were people who couldn't get on. I called Beth Leader, the city clerk, She said that you've increased it, she thought, with the tech department for tonight. But my concern there is that there were people who, like, I tried 4 times to get onto the meeting. I kept getting a message back that said that the meeting was full. I couldn't participate until somebody else left the meeting. So I know, and I asked Beth, I says there, she checked with tech department, is there anybody in any way that you keep account? Can the tech department see how many people were excluded out of that meeting? I only know of 8 of them, which included myself, but there may have been many more. I just don't know. Diversity is inviting everyone, everyone to the party. You did a good job on that. You invite me in the agenda packet. I was able to register for the meeting and join. Equity is making sure everyone can get there. And we weren't able to do that because we weren't allowed to get in because of the limit on the capacity. Inclusion is making sure everyone feels comfortable while dancing. This is out of your IDE subcommittee report. And this ties in with keeping decorum in meetings. And that meeting on February 1st was when one of the participants, there's 2 of us that had participated in that meeting, and we tried to be real constructive and talk about the ordinance itself. And then a member came in and they said, Ellensburg is a racist town. It is a town that makes white supremacists comfortable. So as far as I can see, the only people that would take issue with something like this are racist, white supremacists, and those that are comfortable with them being in our town, which by extension makes them equally bigoted. If the churches, businesses, the other community members were actually doing something about this, then this wouldn't be needed. That left people coming into the next public meeting on February 16th. And that wasn't, I don't even, it seems like in past meetings I've been called out on becoming the least bit maybe out of order, and I've tried to be respectful. And when that happened, I just want you to know, City Council.
Yeah,
that
Teresa, that's your
game,
3 minutes are up.
people were
Thank you.
intimidated.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I've got Rex Havner.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, this is good.
Thank you. My name is Rex Habner. My address is 785 North Kendall, Sequim, Washington. I want to thank you for your time. I want to speak on behalf of my former neighbors, family, and friends from Ellensburg, Washington. Our family moved to Ellensburg in 1975, where my dad worked a high voltage power lineman for Puget Sound Energy and Light. During my dad's tenure, Puget Sound Power and Light, currently Puget Sound Energy, I recall many times Rudy, my father, and I lending mutual aid to both the city of Ellensburg, Kittitas County, and of course, PSE. Of our 5 boys in our family, I'm the only one that chose to follow in Dad's footsteps, which is part of our trade and what we do as a high voltage power lineman. Every now and then, I visit my dad in Ellensburg when I moved over to Seattle to get work, and a storm would hit or something would happen, wind would blow as it does in Ellensburg, and the both of us would go to work, many times for Kittitas County PUD and sometimes for the city of Ellensburg itself. I graduated high school in the city of Ellensburg in 1982. I have many classmates, many friends. In fact, I enjoyed Phil Kelleher on there. I think most of my brothers bought cars from the Kellehers, just what it was. Also, I've spent most of my youth working on the farms of Ellensburg, from Menashash to the Tainum to the Clackamas out to Badger Pocket, roaming from farm to farm. Kind of landed at the Atchison family farm and the Catlin farm out on the Menashash Robinson Canyon, where I graduated high school and worked there. I've been in this high voltage business. I'm a journeyman lineman for 35 years. I am currently the business manager, financial secretary for IBW Local 77. We have 87 contracts across Washington and Northern Idaho. We have contracts from cities, publics, privates, municipalities, and co-ops. We take very serious this relationship in bonding relationships between the union and the companies, which is best for our customers or your customers. One common experience we had, numerous of the farmers that I've worked across Ellensburg, was they fought hard for the price of the products that they produced. The businesses that reside in Ellensburg depend on the citizens that live in the communities and the surrounding communities, and their businesses thrive. They require well-maintained, dependable services and utility services across the network that feeds the power into Ellensburg and beyond. Our generation, our wind towers, so forth and so on, all take highly skilled workers that are dedicated to the trade that they're in. And as we've heard, these workers are not IT workers anymore.
Okay, Rex, that's your 3 minutes.
Okay, thank you very much for listening. And
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Just again, so that we at least, this is just a, because I know that a number of people in the community continue to get information about the status of the IBEW and the city. I think it should be recognized that we are moving toward mediation, that the union that Mr. Hebner referenced has agreed to mediation. The city has agreed to mediation. There is a mediator who is a state-appointed mediator who has been agreed to by both sides. Because we are in contract negotiations, the mediation is the next, and have not reached agreement, mediation is the next step. The mediator will do a finding of fact and make a recommendation, which can either be accepted by the union or the city. Typically, those findings and recommendations are accepted. That mediation will probably take place in the middle of this month. I don't know how long it then takes the mediator to present his or her findings, but I think it needs to be very clearly recognized that we are in a process which is consistent with labor negotiations. We are in a process which is consistent with attempting to craft an equitable and fair agreement with our workers, as well as for our community, as well as for those to whom we provide utility service. We are not contracting out, nor is that part of the conversation. It is ridiculous to claim, and a lie, to claim that the city is moving to not hire or not have a local workforce provide services for the people of this community and within the city-owned utility. And with that, we're going to move on. So let's move down then. I don't have any business requiring a public hearing this evening. We will now move to 9A. This is page 78 in your packet. It's the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Commission. This is a second reading for the ordinance and potential adoption of that ordinance. Do we have a staff report?
Mr. Mayor, Council, at your last regular meeting, you conducted first reading of ordinance number 4871, the effect of which creates a Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Commission. The ordinance provides for the terms, requirements, membership, and other operating aspects of the commission, and is incorporated in the Ellensburg City Code, along with our other board and commission requirements. The action that's before you this evening is consideration of second reading and adoption. And with that, I would be glad to answer any questions.
Council, before we do, let's recognize that we had an issue last council meeting when we did first reading on people's ability to get into the into the meeting to provide comment on this particular ordinance. So why don't we start, if anyone in the audience wishes to comment on the ordinance, and then we will move to council action or questions. So let's do, let's see, I have John Schultz.
There we go.
There you go.
Now?
Yeah, you should be good.
Okay, thank you. My address is 13051 Highway 97, Ellensburg. Now, when I first read the IDE subcommittee report, which made recommendations for the commission and also for the citywide IDE program, I had a strange feeling of deja vu, and I realized, oh gee, this is the Army Equal Opportunity Program, which was part of the Army the entire 17 years that I was in the Army. And I'd like to point out that when you do something like this, there are frequently unintended consequences, some of which can be quite negative. Now, whereas the EO program in the Army had a very similar charter to what you're proposing for the DEI Commission, one of the things that quickly happened is that soldiers are in competition with each other, just like city employees are in competition with each other. And suddenly the EO program became a mechanism by which soldiers would backstab each other and backstab employees, their supervisors, when two soldiers were both seeking the same promotion. And so, gee, if I can submit an EO complaint to somebody, that so-and-so is prejudiced or so-and-so is sexist or is harassing someone, I can get the promotion and this person I have accused will not. When I was a senior captain, I spent a month and a half listening to complaints about a captain and his first sergeant who were accused of being sexual harassment and also being prejudiced. And it boiled down to a soldier who was very upset with the first sergeant because he did not get leave and did not get duty assignments at the same time that his girlfriend did. But he could have destroyed the careers of those two senior personnel by making that complaint. So that's an example of an unintended consequence, which can come out of something like your DEI commission. Another unintended consequence is that they inevitably create a large body of new regulations, rules, and so forth that everybody has to follow. And that distracts attention from very serious, real issues. For example, I'm a landlord in Ellensburg, and I've calculated that 40% of my tenants' housing cost is in two areas: property taxes and city utility costs. So here we have yet another thing that's going to be happening that's going to be distracting the attention of the city from some very real important issues. Another example is we clearly have a problem in Ellensburg with relationships with our linemen. 6 have left the city within, I believe, the last 18 months. So that's another example of a real problem that needs the council's attention as opposed to DEI types of things. A third concern I have is the procedure that was used for the listening tour. If I'm not mistaken, under Washington's open government laws, you are required to make known the participants in the listening tour and also exactly what they said. I served on a Kittitas County commission, and that's exactly what the Kittitas County attorney told us. Every single thing that's said is a matter of public record, and it needs to be made public. So I would call on the council to go ahead and make public the list of names and what every participant said during the listening tour. And that's it. Thank you for your time.
Great, thank you. I've got Landis Hansen. You should be good, Landis.
Yeah, my name is Landis Hansen. I reside at 1015 East 18th Avenue here in Ellensburg. I would like to offer my support for the DEI Commission. I personally think that it's going to be really good for the city of Ellensburg. I enjoy how it is, unlike what the previous commenter might have insinuated, it really has no direct power over action from the city and would just be able to offer recommendations to the city council. I don't know what really was the issue with promotions and everything, because again, it has no power other than recommendations. And so I would just love to see Ellensburg prosper and thrive. And one way that we can do that is to more seamlessly include those of minority groups into and include them into the fabric of Ellensburg. I encourage them to be comfortable within the Ellensburg city limits, comfortable with going into businesses, small businesses here in Ellensburg that right now I know a lot of my friends, and this is, totally a personal story, so take this as you will, but I know a lot of my friends do not feel comfortable here in Ellensburg. And I think that was also shown by the listening tour. And so I would love to see our small businesses thrive by making minority members of our community comfortable within our community. Thank you so much for offering me this time, and thank you so much for. I would love it if you would move forward with this commission. Thank you.
Great, thank you. I've got Crystal Rhodes.
Hi, my name is Crystal Rhodes, and thank you for letting me talk. I live at 3291 Ford Drive in Medford, Oregon. I did speak last time at the last meeting, and I just want to reiterate, I don't think you guys, maybe you do, maybe you don't, but I don't think you fully grasp what a lineman does and how dangerous their job is.
Okay,
Ms.
Rhodes,
every single
this
time
is
my
about
husband leaves.
the ordinance, if I may. This is about the ordinance that's in front of us to create the commission.
Okay, but you will let me in, but I don't think that you acknowledged what they were saying, and it gets blown off.
Okay,
Every time my husband leaves,
okay, Ben,
I'm afraid for
we're
his
going to need
life.
to stop this.
It's
We're
very
not,
dangerous.
thank you. So I've got Sarah Amrani up next.
Howdy.
I think you're good.
Yep. Howdy. Sarah Omrani, speaking for myself. Address is 7790 Cook Canyon Road. If you didn't watch the last city council meeting, I was one of the applicants for the art commission, and I mentioned having lived here since 1996. And I'm mentioning this because I think it illustrates my knowledge of the culture of Ellensburg. I would just ask that people that are opposed to the diversity and equity and inclusion to trust their neighbors. We're your neighbors. We're your members of your community. We're telling you that we have been hurt by racism, that we've been targeted physically, verbally, financially by racism in this county and this town. And if you're opposed to the commission on the grounds that Ellensburg is not racist, I just urge you to listen to your community members, because you should be trusting that they're accurately reporting their experiences. Nobody is getting any kind of gain for fabricating any of these things. For example, nobody is going to get rewards for fabricating instances of racism. So there is really no reason to not trust your community members to accurately report their experiences. So I just wanted to put that out there, and I wanted to again thank the mayor and city council for committing to this, because obviously, as I've mentioned before, this is not an end all. This is not going to end racism in this town or in this county, but it is a great step towards making community members feel seen and valued, and I just really appreciate it. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, then Teresa Plouffe. And
Okay,
you're
I'm
live.
unmuted. I think you can hear me now, correct?
Yeah, we're good.
Teresa Plouffe, 140 Woodhouse Loop. I want to talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I've stood with the veterans on the corner of 5th and Main out of respect for our country and out of respect for law enforcement, because I feel like it's one of the hardest jobs people can have. I used to work in law enforcement and parks and recreation, so I know it can be difficult. In that experience, I saw signs that were telling me that, well, actually I had a lot of people approach me who were supporting the Black Lives Matter movement there in the protests on 5th and Main. And I was often, they tried to engage me in a conversation that seemed like they were just hitting on little points that if I didn't agree with them 100%, then I was a racist. I was a white supremacist. And those interactions make it real difficult to have a commission, a DEI commission, that truly where people can participate in there and talk and trust one another's experiences, where they have felt like there's been a law broken. And while the sentiments of diversity, equity, and inclusion, they sound real nice and they give off an enticing sentiment of equalizing our community experience among diverse populations, the adoption of DEI into public law can only happen at the exclusion of some fundamental, I believe, American freedoms, including freedom of speech, freedom to pursue individual achievement, to attain your dreams and work hard at it and get that satisfaction of feeling like you competed in a job well done, with equality before the law and numerous other freedoms that we all really appreciate as being Americans. A law designed to address feelings can only be enforced by committee members, at least I think so, and I'm hoping somebody can correct me on this, but it seems like what they're gonna have to do is you mentioned a feedback loop with the police department about complaints. So I'm assuming that committee is going to take in complaints where people are saying that they felt uncomfortable in businesses, perhaps they were discriminated against. There's
Okay.
just definitions.
Teresa, if I may, let's,
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So Jacob Dolan.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, we're good.
Hi, my name's Jacob Dolan. I live at 1805 North Chestnut Street, and I'm speaking for myself. I just wanted to say that if you read the ordinance on the DEI commission, it clearly states that almost all of the members would be appointed from the community. So I'm not really understanding previously brought up concerns about the city being quote unquote distracted by issues that have to do with diversity, equity, inclusion. I think those are unfounded and frankly is a complete red herring to the actual issues that you're saying you have about DEI commissions. And that's pretty much it. Thank you.
Good, thank you. Aaron Zamzow is up next, and I just would caution folks, we're not in a debate here. We're just discussing the second reading and potential adoption of the ordinance. Aaron, I've got you. Looks like you're live.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we can.
Thank you so much for taking my comment. I just want to say I'm a longtime Ellensburg resident. I've lived here off and on since 1984. I went to Central, moved back here after leaving for another, for a doctorate program, and lived on the west side for a long time and moved back here again in 2008 and have been here raising a family since then. And I'm so heartened to see that there's this diversity, equity, and inclusion committee going forward. And I, as a white person, I don't feel at all threatened by it, or I just don't really understand why anybody would feel like they're losing something through this. I have never felt unheard in this community. As a woman in my profession, there's maybe been some male domination type of issues just because of the work I do. But I speak with my friends and colleagues, and I listen to them and I listen to their lived experiences. So this isn't about just people's feelings. This is about their lived experiences. And I'm very happy to see this happening. I feel like it's a wonderful move for Ellensburg. And I just invite people that are worried about this to listen and to open your heart and to really try to understand what it's like from outside of your white skin. So thank you.
Can we get an address from her, please?
I'm
Sure.
sorry. 1051 McCullough Road. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks, Beth.
Welcome.
Okay, I don't see anybody else. So council, we have Stacy. You're not muted. You need to
Okay,
unmute.
there we go. I think I figured it out. I just took a couple notes as people were speaking because I really appreciate the public input, and I just wanted to correct some of the misinformation, so maybe it will help people understand what we're trying to do here. This is not a policy that's being applied to city employees. This group will have no authority to create resolutions for ordinances. It's a group of volunteers that live within the county and the city, and that would give recommendations to the council. And the easiest way I can parallel this would be the Parks and Rec Commission is a group of locals who volunteer their time to send recommendations to council to improve our parks, so that the 7 council members can hear things that they may not be aware of, or in all different areas. That's why we have a bunch of different commissions. So I didn't understand about stifling the freedoms. My hope is that we'll enable people a voice that maybe isn't getting represented right now or heard, so that we can make sure. I mean, I go back to Parks and Rec. We hear things about dog park users saying, hey, you guys aren't thinking about the way this is set up for actual dog park users. And so then we can listen to those recommendations and say, oh, right, that makes sense. So the 7 of us council members, there's probably things that we're not aware of in our community in the world of diversity, equity, and inclusivity that would be great if those were brought to our attention. It's not a law. Committee members are not local enforcers. It's just a group of volunteers that's going to advise the council on issues related to diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Thank you. Council, we can get a motion.
I move second reading and adoption of the DEI.
Yeah, let's get the number.
It's 4871, I think.
4871. That's correct.
Yeah.
4871.
Second.
We have a motion second to conduct second reading and therefore adoption of the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Commission ordinance. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I would just second Stacy's observations. And I feel, and also believe that it's critically important for people. We do need to do better. We do need to listen to each other, and we do need to figure out ways to build bridges to people who hold different beliefs and have conversations that are meaningful, that effectively make this a positive and supportive community for everyone. We are working on that. It is not easy. And there is, honestly, folks, I've not found a template out there that says, here's what you plug in and it all works. But this is about this community, and it's about supporting everyone to be part of this community, those voices to be heard and valued, and moving forward jointly into a better future. With that, if there are no other comments, if the clerk would call the roll.
Engel,
Aye.
Goodlow,
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
Morgan,
Yes.
Tab.
Yes, motion carries.
Hold on, sorry. An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Ellensburg, Washington, relating to the creation of a Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Commission, and adding a new chapter to the Ellensburg City Code entitled 1.88 Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Commission.
Great, thank you. I would also note that we will have the applications up on our website. We'll also post a link through our Facebook and other social media platforms. So people, if people are interested in applying, that would be the way to do so. And we have a link already on our website if you wanted to apply for a board and commission.
Before you move on, Mayor Tab, I just wanted to note that one citizen was cut off, and that was just because it wasn't pertaining to the item on the agenda, but everybody is welcome to give public comment in the non-agenda public comment section.
Right, thank you. In case I wasn't clear enough when I said that. So let's go down to 9B. This is first reading of proposed ordinance authorizing the issuance of 2021 LTGO refunding bonds. We're on page 86 in your packet.
Good evening, Council, Mr. Mayor, Jerica Pasco, Finance Director for the City of Ellensburg. I also have with me tonight Alice Ostick, Bond Counsel from Straddling, Yoka, Carlson, and Roth, as well as Maggie Marshall and Thomas Toppler, Financial Advisors from PFM, to answer questions at the end if we have any. So beginning on page 88 of your agenda is a proposed ordinance is prepared by the city's bond council, Straddling, Yoka, Carlson, and Roth, authorizing the issuance, sale, and delivery of limited tax general obligation refunding bonds in an amount necessary to refund certain outstanding limited tax general obligation bonds of the city to achieve a debt service savings and to pay costs of issuance and sale of the bonds. Ordinance number 4560, adopted by council on February 16th of 2010, authorized the issuance of the 2010 limited tax general obligation bonds in the aggregate principal amount of $2,935,000. Pursuant to state laws, the city is authorized to refund the city's outstanding limited tax general obligation bonds in order to achieve a debt service savings over the remaining life of the bonds. The 2010 bonds were originally issued to pay the cost of various capital projects of the city and to pay the cost of issuance. The 2010 bonds currently outstanding in the aggregate principal amount of $1,675,000 bear interest rates ranging from 3.5 to 5%. We are currently soliciting proposals for the purchase of the bonds and will select the purchasing entity or bank from those proposals that we receive. For purposes of this ordinance, we included a minimum net present value savings threshold of 5%. However, this was a very conservative estimate that would correspond with an interest rate on a refunding of the bond at about 3%. And based on our preliminary estimates, we actually estimate a net present value savings in the 9.5% to 12% range, or approximately $160,000 to $210,000. This translates into about $18,000 to $23,000 annually. The actual interest rates and costs will be determined based on the bank responses to our request for the financing proposals. Staff recommends that council give first reading to the proposed ordinance authorizing the issuance of the 2021 LTGO refunding bonds. And again, we would be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Great, thank you. Council, any questions of this somewhat daunting cast of experts?
Erica, would
Yes.
it be reasonable generalization for the lay person that's watching this to say we're refinancing to get a lower interest rate?
Yes, that's.
Okay, I feel like I've looped the community in now.
Perfect.
Other questions? Great. Council.
I'll move first reading of proposed ordinance 4872, authorizing the issuance of 2021 LTGO refunding bonds.
Second that.
Okay, we have motion second to conduct first reading of proposed ordinance 4872, authorizing issuance of 2021 LTGO refunding bonds. Any further discussion? Only then again to recognize the work that Jarek and the finance department is doing and looking at where our current position and the potential for those savings, as Stacy pointed out. This doesn't happen necessarily in a passive way. We need to be looking actively at where we are with our investments and where we are with the debt that we're carrying. And then recognizing what's being retired, but also then where we can achieve savings. And so I really appreciate the work that's gone into it. And I know, Alice, we've seen you before. I appreciate the work that you've provided in terms of supporting us to really effectively save money for this community, and also potentially create additional bond cap if we did need it, to provide us ability to fund other debt if needed. All of those are critical elements for us right now, so we appreciate it. With that said, we do have a motion and second to conduct first reading of ordinance 4872. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I too vote aye. That motion carries. If the clerk would read the ordinance.
All right. An ordinance of the City of Ellensburg, Washington relating to contracting indebtedness, authorizing the issuance, sale, and delivery of limited tax general obligation refunding bonds in an amount necessary to refund certain outstanding limited tax general obligation bonds of the city to achieve a debt service savings and to pay the cost of issuance and sale of the bonds, fixing or setting parameters with respect to certain terms and covenants of the bond authorized by this ordinance, appointing the city's designated representative to conduct the sale of the bonds authorized in this ordinance in one or more series, and to approve bond sale terms for each sale of bonds and providing for other related matters.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
That was a mouthful. Let's, okay then, I don't have anything else other than moving to manager's report and council report. I am also believing we don't need an executive session, he says with some certitude, hopefully. John?
That's correct.
Oh, boy.
First item this evening, Sadie Thayer has been working through the Veterans Administration to attempt to commemorate 3 graves in the IOF cemetery of individuals that were veterans of the Civil War. And in her research and endeavors to do so, has discovered that the 3 plots in question are actually owned by the city of Ellensburg. And in order to place monuments on these graves, she would need to have the city's concurrence allowing her to do so, and would also request a letter from the city to the VA in support of the application to do so. The individuals being recognized are Civil War veterans Frank M. Henson, Frederick A. Stevens, and James Nicholas Ferguson. And the staff would like to go ahead and prepare the necessary letters to support Sadie's application, and we'll do so with council's concurrence.
Yes.
You know, you just need the intent. We don't,
I just need to see a shaking of heads.
Yeah.
Yes, that we're okay with
Yeah.
that.
No, I think it's great.
Excellent.
Thank you.
It's a great initiative for Sadie to take on.
Yeah.
Good
Well,
thing.
and I want to just reinforce just publicly while we're doing this, because we still have some folks hanging in there, Nancy's observation of the way that I feel like the collaboration that's emerging between the Kittitas County Historical Museum and Sadie in really delving into our Irish heritage, the Black heritage, items such as this. I feel it's really one of those, it's a relationship that has evolved because I believe we've moved forward in recognizing the contributions of people throughout this community and throughout our history. And it's just been a pleasure working with her. So I'm sorry. We're good.
Second item is we are again, Tree City USA, successfully in the application process for 2020. This is the 38th year that Ellensburg has obtained the Tree City USA designation, and we were the first Tree City USA in the state of Washington. And this is a program that's administered by the State Department of Natural Resources. In order to be considered for Tree City designation, cities are required to have a number of things in place to designate their contribution and dedication towards the tree canopy. Those are, we need to have a tree board or a department. We need to have an ordinance in place related to tree care. We also need to have a community forestry program with an annual budget of at least $2 per capita. And we also finally are required to observe Arbor Day and adopt a proclamation in support of Arbor Day. Our actual out-of-pocket for our tree program is $6.39 per capita, and I think it was probably one of the reasons that we continue to receive the Tree City designation every year. So we'll be recognizing this award at Arbor Day this year. And then finally, just an informational item, community development has scheduled a closed record quasi-judicial public hearing for March 15th for the city council to consider a proposed preliminary plat subdivision known as Ridgeview Plat Division 3, submitted by the owner, Brandon Drexler. And with that, the mayor is correct. We do not need an executive session this evening, so that is my report.
Great, thank you. Let's move to council reports. Nancy Goodlow, you want to kick us off?
Sure. Yes. I met the monthly meeting of the Utility Advisory Committee. We had another or a similar presentation to that committee from Centrifuge, the one that we heard at our last council meeting, and their proposal for trying to build collaboration to expand the broadband access here in the city. And I think UAC will be having several discussions about that. There may be some policies that need to be revisited, some planning that needs to be done for the next 5 to 10 years. But we are planning to start addressing some of those issues at our next meeting. And I think we'll be working on that for a while, but it's a pretty exciting opportunity to think about the possibilities of how we could partner with the other IPSs in our area to try to expand our broadband here in the community. The DEI subcommittee has met with a couple of different groups from Central Washington University and shared our report with them, specific to the university and what we heard about the university in our report. We had a great conversation with a group of department heads and student affairs and student services department heads and representatives last week, and it was very exciting. They have a lot of things going on there, and there's some great opportunities for the city and the university to work very close together on some of the issues that are being considered. I think I mentioned about Sadie, and again, just really appreciate her help with the proclamations. And I think that's all.
Great, thank you. David?
Briefly attended COG, and we're about to go into review of a new round of grant applications for projects. So that'll be up next for COG. That's all I have.
Great. Stacy?
No report.
Mary Morgan?
No report.
Great, thank you. I've just got a couple things just to reinforce. The COG applications for rural sales tax are in. They're also moving forward with a facilitated conversation about economic development for countywide with COG and the Board of County Commissioners in a joint session that I think will be scheduled within the next 2 to 3 weeks. I was able to attend the Governmental Affairs Committee at the Chamber today. I don't know what else I did. So we'll just call it good.
Can you speak to the COG and who should be applying for those? Like what that funding is there for and who's able to apply?
Well, so the rural, actually now nobody can apply because, for this year, for this cycle, because the applications were due. Rural sales tax was actually, it used to be known as the distressed 0.09 distressed sales tax money. It's a sales tax that comes back to the county for specific activities related to economic development. Municipalities typically apply for infrastructure. So an example, the city of Clay Elum has got a sewer upgrade. Roslyn had similar, actually an emergent situation, I think a year or 2 years ago, that they applied and used those monies for. The city of Ellensburg has used it for broadband to push our dark fiber out.
No, we hardly got any funding on that.
But we also used it to push the dark fiber through the downtown. I believe we're also still in process for lighting out at the at Rotary Park. So the application really speaks to the impact it has on economic development, potential number of jobs that are created, those kinds of things. And then the EBDA or centrifuge funds a portion of their economic development position, as does the chamber. The two elements of the law are that you can apply for specifically for economic development personnel, and or municipalities can apply for infrastructure projects related to economic development.
Thank you.
No, it's good. Okay. It's frightening that stuff is in my brain now. So with that, should we go away?
Yes.
Okay.
We're done.
We're done. So we're adjourned, folks. Thank you much. Thanks for everybody for chipping in for public comment. See you in 2